The horse came first, hooves soft against the pine-strewn dirt, its coat a patchwork of white and chestnut-like spilled paint across velvet. The village hadn't seen a horse in years, not since the last of the ranchers had packed up and left, and certainly never one that looked like it had been kissed by a painter's brush. But the strangest thing wasn't the horse. It was the rider. She wasn't more than 12, maybe younger. It was hard to tell. Her face was streaked with the grime of the forest and the golden pollen of early summer. Her dark hair was matted, with twigs and wildflowers falling in a tangled mane down her back. No shoes, just calloused feet that looked like they belonged more to bark than skin. She wore a patchwork of cloth and animal skin, as if nature herself had stitched her wardrobe together in the dark of night. When she reached the center of town, everything fell still. The mechanic dropped his wrench. The grocer paused with a crate of peaches. A child clung to his mother's leg and whispered, "Is she real?" The girl looked at them all with wide, unblinking eyes, not with fear, not even curiosity, but something more primal. It wasn't arrogance either. It was the look of a creature who knew who she was and didn't need anyone else to confirm it. An old woman finally stepped forward, her voice soft and unsure. "Child, where are your parents?" letting a strand of wild hair fall across one eye. "I belong to no one," she said. Her voice was low and hoarse, like she hadn't used it in a while. Or like she preferred to speak to wind and animals instead of people. The horse stamped its hoof once, and the sound echoed louder than it should have in the silence. It was as if the forest itself had exhaled her into the world. And now she stood in the middle of this fragile little town that didn't know what to do with something so raw. Sheriff Connolly stepped out of his office then, his hand resting on the grip of his belt, like always not threatening. "Just old habit, sweetheart," he said, slow and kind. "What's your name?" She stared at him. A hawk called somewhere high above, circling. Then she said, "I have many names, but none." "That matter here?" He smiled, patient. "You can call me Sheriff Connolly. Do you live out in those woods?" "I live where I sleep," she answered. "The woods live in me." She wasn't being poetic. It was just fact. That was how she spoke. The forest had raised her and taught her language through echo and wind. Someone murmured something about social services. Another whispered, she must be one of those missing kids. But Connolly shook his head. There'd been no reports, no names fitting her. And when they gently led her to the station too, give her food and rest, she didn't fight. She sat cross-legged on the floor beside the horse, which she refused to leave, and ate like someone who had learned to chew quietly, to not draw predators. She fed the horse bits of her bread before touching a scar on its neck, whispering words. They couldn't understand. Later, when they asked about it, she simply said, "He was caught in thorns. I helped him. He stayed. No saddle, no reins." Yet the horse followed her like a loyal shadow. The town couldn't decide what to do with her. She wouldn't go to school. "I don't learn in cages," she said. She refused a bath. "Water belongs in rivers." She never slept in beds. "The stars are my ceiling." The social worker from the county came in, high heels clicking against the concrete of the sheriff's office, voice clipped and efficient. "We'll need to place her in a temporary home while we locate her family." The girl blinked. "You won't find them. They never looked for me. The deer fed me better than people ever did. They checked databases, missing persons lists, DNA samples. Nothing. It was as if she'd stepped through a crack in the world, or perhaps crawled from under the roots of the oldest tree, where time moved differently. One evening, a local teacher named Miriam offered to let the girl stay at her house. "Just for a night," she told the sheriff. "Let's see what happens." Girl agreed, but only if the horse could sleep in the yard. That night, Miriam found her curled up beside the horse, not inside the house, but beneath a tree in the backyard. She had a squirrel in her lap, eating from her hand. 2 raccoons watched from the branches above. It wasn't just that she belonged to nature, it was like nature. It claimed her as one of its own. The town began to change. Children stopped being afraid of the woods. Some even ventured in with the girl leading them. showing them where wild berries grew and which paths foxes walked. The local vet said she brought him a wounded owl and sat with it for hours until it blinked again. The girl never demanded anything, never asked for toys or phones or even books. But when she looked at someone, it felt like she could see straight through them. One day, a man came, tall in a city suit with slick shoes. He said he was from a research institute. We think this girl may be the result of extreme neglect, possibly raised in the wild. We can study her helper. When the girl heard that, she stepped forward. You want to put me in a cage to watch me breathe? I won't stay. The man smirked. You're just a child. She reached out and touched his chest. You've forgotten the rhythm of trees. You can't hear the language of wind. I'm not a child to the forest. The horse neighed once, and the wind picked up, leaves scattered like birds fleeing. The next morning, she was gone. No one saw her leave. No trail, no hoofprints, just an empty patch of grass where the horse had stood, and a carved shape in the tree behind Miriam's house. A horse, a flame, and a handprint. Weeks passed, then months. People said they saw her sometimes just for a second riding through misty meadows at dawn or standing at the edge of the tree line, half in shadow. Always silent, always wild, the town slowly changed. A new park was built and named the Painted Grove. The children played differently, softer, wiser. Miriam kept the carved tree untouched. The sheriff retired. But he often sat by the woods, in the evening, listening, and sometimes, when the stars were just beginning to show, he swore he could hear her whisper, I belong to no one. I belong to everything. Years later, a boy wandered too deep into the woods during a storm. He returned unharmed, clothes dry, a flower tucked behind one ear. When asked who helped him, he said, the forest girl rode a painted horse and knew my name, even though I never told her. The legends grew. Some called her the forest daughter, others the last wild child. But those who had met her, really met her, knew she wasn't some myth or spirit. She was a mirror, reminder of what people had lost. And when the world became too loud, too cruel, too crowded, they found themselves looking toward the trees, wondering if maybe, just maybe, they too could belong to no one and everything all at once.